Okay, so this last video will just be a quick, brief of how we can put this into a chart, because this is obviously really ugly. And again, like I mentioned, I'm not an expert on visuals. I probably need some help in this area, as you will probably tell, but might be helpful to just see. So let's just say we want a combo chart here. And so we just, when you click on a visual in Power BI, it should automatically change it. And so it does, even though we got all this stuff in here, it probably won't make much sense. So let's take out dollar variance. And let's actually just make a filter on this page. We only want to look at the year 2020. So let's do a filter on the page. You just drag the year over. You can see different filters right here. You can filter on this visual by itself. You can filter on the page, so this page, or you can filter on all pages in the entire Power BI report. So we only want to look at just 2020. So let's just do that. It's 2020. And then we want to look at, so we want to expand down to quarters. We could go down to months too. Let's do it by months actually, just to get a little bit more in here. So we have our revenue actuals, and I'm going to switch these again because I want the forecast first. It's just my preference. So we have the forecast actuals down here, but we also have this variance here. It's clear down in here. That doesn't make any sense. But I guess that's why that is, we have a combo chart here. So the line values, you can just drag. Again, this is not a tutorial on this. If you don't know it, it's okay. Just look it up. But put that over there. And I like to just look at the y-axis here and the secondary and align zeros. Oh, well, never mind. Let's not do that. So this just shows the variance as the second chart. So nothing too special, but you can also add in some slicers here at the top. So let's bring in a slicer for, whoops, that's not what we wanted to do. We don't want to change this to a slicer, but we want to bring in a slicer. Slicer is just a way to filter your data. So let's say we just want to be able to look at this by region. So we go to our region dimension table, bring in region, and it will give us this. We can change how we want it to be, list or a drop down. I usually like to do a list, or a drop down. So we want to basically probably bring in all the dimensions into different slicers that we have. That's why we have the dimensions. So let's bring in our product, for example. I just copied and pasted, so you don't have to select to have it a drop down again. So that's our product. Oops. Product. Let's copy and paste again. And let's bring in, this time, we want to look at our customer. So take that out, bring customer in here. Okay. And then, we could go on and on here. Well, not on and on. I guess we're limited by the number of dimensions we have. But we want to see industry and not customer. So we got also, those could also be the same ones. It'd be in the same one, but we're not going to have that. We're going to do it separately. So, and then let's just say we want to see it. Maybe that's it. Product, region, customer, and country. We could do country. Let's take out industry, put in country. So then you say, okay, here are all my variances, but I want to see it by, the Americas business. So we can click on that, and then we can say, well, let's look at it by the all-purpose industry. And again, this is something that we labeled that all-purpose. So, okay, so you can see this, and you can also make different types of charts like that show a mix of the industry. So, if you wanted to, let's just duplicate this page, and you wanted to say, let's look at the mix type a mix type chart. So, we could do this stacked column, or actually let's do a 100% column. And let's get rid of the dollar variance. Let's get rid of forecast, because we just want to see what our mix is like over time. Like just a little trend. And actually we want to include other years. So let's just get rid of that. So let's go back up to the top here. So, well, we'll start with years. And then the legend, we can bring in our industry. So let's see. Let's not do that. Let's do this one. So let's see. Oh yeah, because looking at all purpose, we want to take that out. So this is the mix. This shows both the total and the mix of that. And if we want to throw some data labels on there, just put that on there. Just gives you the mix. Unless you wanted to make it percentages, this can show you the percentage, how that's your mix of business has trended over time, and you could look at quarters and months. So that's a little bit on Power BI charts, but again, or visuals. I'm not an expert on visuals, but to kind of recap what we've done in this series is we've understood that doing everything in Excel is not the most optimal, especially when you're trying to compare two discrete data sets and they're not linked in any way. You have to link those in Excel somehow, whether it's through VLOOKUPs or whatever means. I've forgotten a lot of the means I used to use because this has been such a time saver for me. So then we learned about PowerPivot in the first place in Power BI. Then we learned how to bring those into PowerPivot on the back end. And then we learned the principle of needing to have dimension tables so that we could look at different data sets across those dimensions. And those dimensions can be 1, they could be 100. Whatever dimensions we want to look at the data sets by, we can create those dimension tables as long as those data sets, those fact tables, have those dimensions in there. Then we learned how to link those data sets in order to do the analysis. And then we kind of went to we saw some scenarios where we didn't have a value in one of our dimensions that was in one of our fact tables, so we could create it. Then we created some measures in our data model, both in PowerPivot and Power BI. We created measures in our model that span across the entire model. So again, we could pull in the revenue actuals and pull in the revenue forecast from each fact table, but that doesn't span across the model. That's only looking at that value within that table. As we created those new measures, it allowed us for that to span across the entire model. And then we did pretty much the exact same thing we did in PowerPivot. We just transitioned that to Power BI and created a model within Power BI and created measures. So this is a much more robust way than I think a lot of us in finance and or operations or whoever, whoever creates a model or wants to compare two data sets. It's a lot faster once you get the initial setup done. It's a lot more robust, and it's just a lot less prone to error. It's a lot more scalable. And it saved me a ton of time, and I think it's very valuable. There is a learning curve. I was flying through it because I've learned it. But I wanted this tutorial, this video series, to be not super in-depth, but a very practical way of using it. Again, leave in the comments if there are areas that you think that was very inefficient the way you did that. If you do it this way, it's much better. That would be awesome. But even in this amateur way or very vanilla way, I've been able to model better. So I hope you enjoyed this video series, and any questions or comments, leave them below. And thanks for watching, and happy modeling.